Hello, welcome to Editor's Corner. I'm Tanya Buchanan, the Editor-in-Chief of Belle and House and Garden magazines, and it's my pleasure today to speak with William Smart, internationally acclaimed architect and principal of Smart Design Studio. Award-winning architect William Smart's name is synonymous with architectural brilliance. He was fortunate to discover his passion for design at a young age. As a child, he was an avid drawer and model builder, and that early drive has led to truly inspiring work. William is the founder and creative director of Smart Design Studio, one of Australia's most revered and well-respected architecture practices. Over the last 20 years, William has also collected a slew of award wins, including international acclaim for the groundbreaking Indigo Slam. With a reputation for the pursuit of excellence, William creates extraordinary spaces, working from the inside out to ensure the space is tailored to how each client lives. His work spans residential, multi-residential and commercial projects globally. We've had the privilege of featuring William's outstanding work many times in Belle magazine. Incredibly, one of his clients has had their 3 homes all featured in Belle, one every 5 years. Welcome, William.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you for joining us today. Now, what everybody wants to know when they speak to amazing designers is, was this your idea for a career when you were young? Were you the person who designed as a young boy? And tell us a bit about that and your design ethos.
Yeah, as a young boy, I was that kid who was drawing all the time, making sandcastles to perfection. And I think about the age of 6 or 7, someone said, you'd make a good architect. And that stuck in my brain. And ended up choosing architecture because I felt as though it was so open. I could work in the country, I could work in the city, many different places in the world, and I felt as though it was a very creative industry.
Yeah, and that's something that is easier to do from Australia as well.
That's right.
Than something like industrial design.
The design ethos that we've developed over the years has really been based on architecture from the inside out. So what we seek as designers is to build extraordinary internal spaces before we shape the building.
So the interior informed the exterior rather than the other way around.
That's exactly right. And it works on a functional sense as well. So I could plan a building and think what's the best way of configuring the building, as well as those extraordinary spatial opportunities, before shaping the building. And then the floor plan tells you what the building wants to be.
That's interesting because not a lot of architects work that way. I mean, there's often the building shell, the exterior, and then it's the job of the interior architect or interior designer to then make it warm to live in, whereas you're doing it the other way around, which I think that's how we live. We live internally, so...
That's right.
But maybe tell us a bit about the evolution of the design and client relationship when you do 3 projects with them over a decade.
Yes, three houses for the same family has been a real privilege to work on. It really started when I was much younger and they gave me my first opportunity to do a big house. So there was tremendous trust and respect, and I also wanted to really get it right.
And with all 3, they were older houses, not heritage listed, but older houses. Yeah. And then you brought the contemporary. You really melded old and new so well, because I've been lucky enough to visit 2 of them. Yeah. And I guess maybe that was, you got braver after the first one.
Yeah, I think that's true. So I'm sort of fascinated with bringing old and new together. So the new works are contemporary, and that means building in the 21st century technologies. And then after that, we try to bring a level of craftsmanship to it that is of its older time, so Victorian craftsmanship.
One of your most well-known and internationally acclaimed projects is Indigo Slam, which you did for philanthropist Judith Neilson. Tell us a little bit about this partnership.
I had worked with Judith on the White Rabbit Gallery, which we finished about 12 years ago now. And we got on very well and really enjoyed the relationship. So she asked me to do this new house and set the bar very high. She wanted to actually build the best house in the world. That was the brief.
And in Chippendale. And a lot of people were surprised that someone like Judith, who could choose any location, choose a view, choose anything, chose Chippendale in inner city Sydney in a previously kind of industrial area in a way.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit aligned to the vision of what might become Chippendale. So she was certainly ahead of the curve there, and it's becoming a really interesting cultural hub within Sydney. But her view was that they were building a new park in the city, and she felt as though that park would be very lively, and saw an opportunity to have a house on a park in the city, and all the benefits that come with living in the city. So there's a stronger sense of community actually living in the city than on a harbourfront property.
And with Indigo Slam, you had I'd imagine, a decent budget, but you chose to use some humble materials. And I know one of the materials was an Austral Bricks product. And again, I got to visit this project when you still had all the trades there working, and it was amazing.
It was actually a part of the single page brief that Judith gave me that the floors needed to be brick. And I think the brief for me was clues of how she wanted to live. There was a kind of idea of humbleness in the materials, and that was also aligned to another element, that everything had to last for 100 years or more, which a brick floor would do. We chose to use it in a very kind of detailed way, so it was laid out beautifully in diagonals and in bands.
And it's an interesting house because the actual rooms, the bedrooms and those areas are quite modest, but those, what you'd call, I guess, in a house, a public space, are actually really grand.
Yeah, so there's a dining hall downstairs that seats 60 people.
And that's incredible, with joinery by Kai Lu,
who did all
usually
the
makes just amazing one-off pieces, and he's done all of that joinery.
Yeah, so there's a kind of beautiful joinery, beautiful dining room downstairs. It's very grand, kind of an extraordinary staircase that runs through the house. And then the other levels of the house have a regular sized kitchen, a regular sized lounge room.
And it does really blend the grand and the modest, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So the materials we used were unpainted, wax rendered walls, brick on the floor, natural materials that weren't painted, like wood and concrete and brass throughout the house as well. So it has a kind of softness and patina to it.
And how amazing to go on a journey with someone like Judith, a philanthropist who is actually creating her own dream, but actually creating something for the community. William, when you chose the location for your offices and your home above your offices, you chose an inner city Sydney location as well. You've created a community there by going there with all those staff, and actually by living there as well. So your home that you've created, the apartment above the offices, is incredible, with this cathedral ceiling. And I know you worked closely with the Austral Bricks technicians on managing to adhere all these bricks. Tell us a bit about that process.
What we tried to do on the project was bring to the table scientists from Brickworks. So they have laboratory experts here, people from UTS that knew how to design parametrically, and also technicians that were able to help us with crush testing.
Can you explain parametrically for me?
Parametrics is like a way of modelling using computer technology to set out all of the brick shapes and the forms. Right. So we actually laid out every single brick on the whole project. There's thousands of them. You
laid it out
in drawings, using script work, because the geometry is so unusual. It's a catenary shaped geometry. And then we've sort of built these structural brick vaults over the roof space, and 2 of them are large and 2 of them are small, and in between them we glaze the junctions, and it delivers beautiful light into the space in the cracks between the vaults. And those structural vaults are self-supporting, so there's no steel and concrete holding them up. It's the bricks that are holding it up with concrete to bind that together. It combines what I love in architecture, which is a sense of texture with beautiful forms. It's not haphazard or kind of rustic in any way, but it's got a sense of roughness and texture and richness to the space that's combined with a kind of beautiful, uplifting sense of light that comes in.
It's almost, it is almost spiritual. I mean, it is cathedral-like. And you love living in that space.
I love it. And it sort of does what it's supposed to do. We're in an industrial area where our view out is of rooftops and car parks, so nothing special. So it really looks up to the sky and look out to the treetops, and it sort of frames views that when you walk in there, you don't know where you are. This doesn't feel like Alexandria. This feels like Europe or some kind of beach house or somewhere else.
I know, it's an incredible space. And that is the beauty of fabulous architecture, isn't it? You should be able to build something incredible in any location. Do you think you'll continue to finesse this technique that you've worked on with the bricks in future projects?
I think so. So I'm sort of interested in this on a larger scale in public buildings. Can we create train station-like vaulted spaces out of brick?
Yeah.
And we've applied that to some projects that may or may not come off. And we are in current projects at the moment exploring other forms that are structural but not catenary vaults, like hyperbolic shapes and radiating forms like staircase geometry in houses and wineries and other projects.
Just on a, I guess a smaller scale note, just those projects that we've run in Belle for the one client, the 3, I notice your kind of through lines, things that have evolved. You have a signature, I love your bathrooms, that signature bathroom where you have freestanding elements that seem to be structurally, they stand alone. Maybe explain that a little. I mean, that's a bit of experimentation.
I think on those projects, like often when we go into an old space, we'll bring in new pieces and we like them to float in the space. So there's a sense of detachment. So we'll prefer, if you can, make a box that contains joinery and might be clad with marble, to not touch the walls because it has a sense of lightness and freedom.
I know that you have a lot on the drawing board, literally, for this year. You've got private homes, multi-residential. Do you have a train station?
We're about to hand over Science Gallery Melbourne. So that's finished in a month, which is very exciting, at the University of Melbourne. That's our first kind of big gallery project in a while. We've also been designing other art galleries. We're working on a hotel, some apartment buildings.
In Australia?
Yeah, and a handful of houses. We're working on a shop in New York at the moment. These days you can 3D scan a space and they digitally capture in 3D. So our studio makes models by hand. So we're often making cardboard and playing around because you can feel it better. We do a lot of freehand drawing. We also do CAD work that kind of visualizes it. We also in our studio designed it so that all the models kind of live amongst us. And there's this collected history of 20 years of model making, which is all amongst us now. So it's sort of like walking into
That's amazing.
An artist studio where there's models everywhere. It's kind of chaotic and we pin up all our drawings on the walls and we don't want it to be this kind of clean white environment. We want a studio where you're living and breathing the work that we do.
Okay, from what you've been saying, William, I sense that sustainability and longevity are integral to everything you do.
Absolutely. So we design for durability and we are pioneering sustainability at the moment. So we are doing new things like our studio has no air conditioning, natural ventilation, underfloor heating and cooling, 260 solar panels on the roof that means we produce 3 times the energy that we consume. And
are residential clients open to all these things? Are you finding that more on the brief or is that something you're bringing to the client?
No, it's absolutely the forefront of people's minds now. People want to be sustainable. They want to do the right thing. We're working on buildings that are off-grid, that are completely harvesting and collecting their own water and reusing that, as well as the power.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I agree with you on the sustainability. You wanted the sustainability to be innate in a project, but people didn't want to really address it because they didn't think it was glamorous enough, maybe. It didn't look great enough, but now it's a lot deeper than that, the conversation.
It's deeper, and I think, off the back of last year, people are thinking about health, natural ventilation. Also, a lot of sustainable elements like solar panels are half the price of what they were 10, 15 years ago. It's really quite affordable and the payback periods are short.
Thank you very much for joining me today, William. I could talk to you for hours. There's so much more. Hopefully we'll get another chance to do this again. And good luck with all your projects this year.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you for joining us today on Editor's Corner. For more conversations like this, go to brickworks.com.au.